Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Nate, and today we're going to be converting this space behind me into this. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with you. Over the next coming weeks, I'm going to be releasing multiple parts to this whole project. Now, depending on when you watch this video, there is a chance that the whole series has been released. So be sure to check out the description down below, and I will have each part linked there. So before we go ahead and dive right into this project, I've got a few disclaimers. The first thing is, I am by no means an expert woodworker or carpenter. Up until this project here, my experience with woodworking, it was limited to just a shop class in high school, and I also finished this basement here. So with that being said, what you see here in this video, my technique and my process here may not be the most efficient. I know there are a ton of people here on YouTube that have a lot of experience, and I'm sure that they will help fill us in with some knowledge down below in the comments. So be sure to check those out when you can. The second thing I wanted to mention was in regards to the objective of this video series. Now, depending on how many videos you've watched here on YouTube of different woodworking projects, there are a lot of videos out there with people that have thousands of dollars in tools and have humongous shops to do their project in. One of the things I kind of wanted to show is that you don't necessarily need all of these tools in this great shop to be able to create something. Now, don't get me wrong, I would definitely take having a huge shop and these awesome tools. Both of these things kind of help make a more professional finished product. However, you don't necessarily need all of that to accomplish a finished product that looks good. A large portion of the tools that you'll see here today in this video are tools that I actually borrowed from my friends, coworkers, etc. So with all that being said, I want to finish there, and let's go ahead and get right into this project. All right, guys, so how we're going to start this off here today is we're going to be using some sanded plywood here. It is 3/4 inch thick, and it is 4 foot by 8 feet. Depending on the tools that you have, there's multiple ways on how you can cut this wood. Here today, I'm going to demonstrate on how you can use a circular saw or even a table saw. So one of the first things I like to do when I'm working with these panels is I just want to make sure that all my 4 factory corners are square. After I validate that they are square, I like to go ahead and mark a quick X on each corner here, just so I know which one is our factory edge. If you're going to be using a circular saw here, you can go ahead and adjust your blade depth. One of the things you may want to consider investing in is a saw blade here with several teeth. Typically, the more teeth you have, the little bit cleaner cut you're going to get. Anytime that you are cutting with a circular saw here, you want to make sure that your good side is always face down. And I'm going to be going ahead and use my level here as a straight edge to help guide my saw along. Depending on how good you are with freehanding, you may not need this straight edge. Then we're going to go ahead and cut several horizontal pieces here. This is going to be used for support as well as securing the cabinets to the wall. So this is where I was talking about where I switched up my plans here from going from 48 inches wide down to 24. And so instead of doing 2 carcasses, that would give us 4 total. Now the main reason on why I did that was because I was a little bit concerned on how well that a 40-inch span would last over time, as well as a pretty good amount of weight on top of these cabinets. I figured that it was better to be safe than sorry. Once we've got everything all cut up here, one of the things that we're looking to do is we want to make sure that all of our pieces here, our base, our shelf, and our support pieces are all equal sizes. What this is going to do is going to help us give us a nice square cabinet. So from there, I went ahead and laid out our vertical pieces side by side. Then I went along and marked 15 inches here, and that is where my shelving is going to be. Once you've got this marked, then I can go ahead and take a straight edge and just run right down the whole line. Next up is we're going to start drilling some pocket holes. You ever seen this little jig here? This is actually a Craig pocket hole jig. This model here isn't as convenient as the top of the line model. However, this one here is a little bit more budget friendly. All I'm doing here is I am adding a couple pocket holes, one below the shelf and the other below the top support. These pocket holes here are going to be used to help secure the face frame onto the carcass. Now that we have all our pocket holes drilled, we are on to assembly. First piece here, I'm going to secure the base to the side panel. Now I've got a couple drills going here. One of these is a countersink bit. This countersink bit is very nice because it helps give us a pilot hole as well as bore out some wood here so the screw can sit below the surface. One of the things I think is worth mentioning here is that I have put all of the factory edges out. And the reason being here is, especially since I was using a handsaw for part of that, is that I want the straightest edges out towards the room. Any sort of uneven cuts then would be hidden in the back of the cabinet. Here you see I'm going to be securing the back side of the top shelf, and I'm using a level in this particular case. However, this is only possible if your surface is level to begin with. I know I used my straight edge there, so it probably would have been pretty close there. However, I just wanted to make sure that we were indeed level. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the back support here. That's what's going to be securing the cabinet to the wall. Now hindsight's always 20/20. However, if I would have to do this project over again, I probably wouldn't have this back piece be quite so thick. We're going to go ahead and add these support pieces across the top of the cabinet. These top pieces here are going to help carry the weight of the shelving as well as the countertop, so to speak. And there you have it, guys. That is going to be the gist of our general carcass here. And then from there, we're just going to go ahead and repeat that process 3 more times. We'll have a total of 4 separate units. Here you can see the beginnings of the second one. I'm not going to take you guys through the whole process here. I think you guys get the general idea. So here I've got a 1/4 inch of the same sanded plywood here, and what we're going to be doing is using this as the backing. I've got a little bit of space here between each draw out. All I'm going to be doing is just kind of getting this close with the circular saw, and then I'm going to take it to the table saw to kind of fine tune it up. The reason why I'm cutting this up first beforehand is it's a little bit easier to handle at the saw with it being a smaller piece. Now that we got all of our pieces cut out here, now what we're going to do is we're going to work on staining. Now, I'm by no means an expert in staining. However, the process I've kind of gone through here. However, the first step here I like to use is a pre-stain conditioner. And all this does is it just kind of helps put a nice even coat of stain on your wood. This probably isn't necessarily needed for this type of wood here. It's more beneficial for a softer wood like pine. However, I've found that if we're going to be going to all this work for this project, we might as well go ahead and do it right. One of the benefits of staining now at this stage is that it's a relatively easy access to all parts of this carcass. If you put on the backing and all that, it makes it just a little bit tough. Definitely doable, but it's just a little bit easier when everything is disassembled. After we've got the conditioner on, we're going to go ahead and let that just rest for a few minutes, and then that's when we're going to go ahead and apply our stain. I am using an oil-based stain, and the color is a red chestnut. There are multiple ways here of applying your stain. You can either use like a paintbrush or a cloth here, and I found these staining pads here to be pretty convenient. You do have to pay a little bit extra for it, but I do like the way on how it applies the stain. We're just going to go ahead and give it a nice even coat here. Be sure to wipe up any excess stain. Once we've got the first coat on, we're going to go ahead and let this hang out for an hour or 2. Depending on what color you're looking for, you would go ahead and add additional coats until you get that desired color. In my particular case here, I went ahead and did 3 coats here for the base cabinets. Once you got all that done, I would encourage waiting at least 4 or 5 hours before applying any sort of finish. If you've got extra time, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to let that dry overnight. Once you've got the color that you like and you've had ample drying time, the next step here is going to be putting a finish on. Here I am using a fast drying polyurethane. It's a clear semi-gloss. Just like with a stain, there's many ways you can apply this. I personally like to use these foam brushes. It just gives it a nice smooth finish there. You don't have to worry about brush strokes or anything like that. And the key here is you're just going to go ahead and put on a very light coat. My personal opinion here is I'd rather put multiple coats on instead of putting too much on at one time. Then you're going to go ahead and let this dry for a few hours. We'll come back around with some 200 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to go ahead and knock down any high points. After sanding, you want to go ahead and get rid of all the dust here. I really like these tack cloths here. They've got a layer of beeswax on it, so it kind of helps pick up all of that extra dust and debris. You just go ahead and repeat this process a few times. I did a total of 4 coats. The number of coats is going to be dependent on how thick you apply this. Before we can install our cabinets, we've got to create a base for them to sit on. Now, since this is in my basement, it's going to be sitting on concrete, we've got to be using treated wood here. Typically, anytime wood is going to be coming in contact with concrete, we want to be using treated wood. For the design of the base here, all I've got is just kind of a ladder design. You want to be sure that you use screws that are meant for treated wood. I'm adding support where each cabinet bump up next to each other. I want to make sure the perimeter of each cabinet is fully supported. So before we secure the base down, we're going to go ahead and do some final measuring here. And what I'm looking for is I want this to be almost flush with the face of our cabinets. Once we're the right distance away, I'm going to go ahead and just use a Sharpie here just to kind of outline the layer of this frame. This is going to help me here in the next step when I add my construction adhesive. That way I know exactly where I need to apply this adhesive. Now, depending on how level of a surface you are installing this base, you may need to shim it a little bit. In my particular case here, since we're working with concrete, we don't want to use just the normal wood shims, so they do have plastic ones out there. Go ahead and use those shims there to make your base as level as possible. Be sure to add a little construction adhesive to your shims as well to keep those secure too. Once you like where everything is positioned, you can go ahead and drive those 3-inch deck screws into the studs of the wall. This is just going to add a little bit more support and make sure that this base does not shift at all. Next up, we're going to be securing the backs here to our cabinets. I just went ahead and marked the middle shelf here just so I had an idea when I drive the middle nails there that I know exactly where that shelf is. And then I'm just going to go ahead and take some finishing nails and just kind of go around the perimeter of this and secure it. I wouldn't say there's necessarily any exact number of nails you need here. I do know that these nails are pretty cheap though, and so I figured might as well go ahead and use these where we can. And you're just going to repeat this process for each cabinet. And here you can see we've got the cabinets on its base. Go ahead and make any final adjustments, and we're going to make sure that everything is nice and level. Once I liked where everything was at, I went ahead and fastened each cabinet to each other first, and then I went ahead and secured it to the wall.
Alright guys, so that wraps up this part for now. Be sure to check out the description down below. I'll be linking each part as I release them. So no matter when you're watching this, you should be able to find the updated list down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, stick around, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this ride.